Ellis, Mass. I'm a certified business coach. I own my own practice. I'm affiliated with a group called Focal Point International. As a candidate, when I first came to Wright Management, I was in a pretty unfamiliar territory in that I'd been through a lot of different downsizings and a lot of different mergers and acquisitions, and I'd always ended up on the good list, the list that was sticking around for a little while. So I was a little bit bewildered, a little bit out of sorts, and coming to Wright Management immediately felt a sense of welcome and a sense of really helping me to find my purpose again after I'd hit a little bit of a speed bump. In the past, I've worked in consumer healthcare, worked for pharmaceutical companies, worked in financial services, worked for retail, worked for luxury goods, electronics, technology, you name it. I've pretty much kind of worked in a lot of different sectors. You know, in coming to Wright Management, although I was in unfamiliar territory and didn't really know quite how to process what was going on, I did look upon it a little bit as an opportunity, because for the first time in a long time, I had the opportunity to kind of hit the pause button, do a little bit of soul searching, and figure out what is it that I really want to do. The past maybe couple of decades before that, I'd kind of been on the hamster wheel, doing really well and advancing my career, but not really pausing to think, what direction do I actually want to be going in? Is this actually what I want to be doing? So, working at Wright Management, I was able to kind of hit the pause button a little bit, think, reflect a little bit about what I want to do, and I actually kind of consciously made a decision that I really wanted the next phase of my career to be a little bit more purpose-driven than what the past few years had been. I think that one of the more unique things about working with Wright is that we didn't jump into the activity, the tactics right away. We kind of stopped and thought about a strategy. We started by doing some self-assessment. What is it that I actually want? And that's a process that I needed to go through. So let's not mistake activity for productivity. All right? Let's pick a direction first, and then let's figure out what we want to pursue. The other thing that was really great about working with Wright is that it did broaden my horizons a little bit, because coming into the process, I kind of immediately gravitated towards, I'm going to get a corporate job that's going to be pretty similar to the stuff that I've done in the past, because that's what I'm really, really good at, and I know what to do. It's what I'm familiar with. Being part of Wright, being part of the environment here, got me exposure to some other things that I hadn't necessarily seriously considered. And of course, I ended up taking a very different path, one towards entrepreneurship, which I'm thrilled that I've done, because if not now, when? And I don't know if I would have found that on my own. I did a lot of individual work with my own business consultant here, and I also participated in a lot of the group activities and seminars and webinars, and really in combination, those were great, because my individual conversations focused on me, my goals, my need, helping me to expand my network, helping me get experiences and communication that I needed to process things a little bit. And some of the group work and some of the seminars and webinars that were provided by Wright got me exposure to concepts and things that I hadn't really thought of before. One example would be franchising. I never would have considered franchising as a possibility. No offense, not interested in running a Subway. What I learned, though, is that if I actually broadened my definitions a little bit, there were a lot of licensing opportunities that were actually a pretty good fit with what I wanted to do next. There is a treasure trove of resource available to you through Wright Management, including business information. And I think of my consultant almost as kind of my guide throughout that process. She showed me what was available. She put me in touch with the right people who I could dive in deeper with into any of those areas. So having my personal consultant and coach was almost like having, in a sense, a concierge that would help me access all of the great information and all the great resources that Wright had at my disposal. And it was a lot. I'll answer this question in maybe a weird way, and I'll do it again if you don't like this, but throughout my entire corporate career, I never did much networking. In fact, the systems and processes we had in place sort of insulated us from networking. As the client, as the corporation, networking was a way that people tried to sell us stuff. So networking was something, in a sense, almost to be avoided or minimized. I think one of the most impactful things from the very beginning when I first started working with Wright Management was that they taught me how to network, and they taught me why that's important. and something that I should be doing and probably should have been doing for maybe 20 years prior to that and never did. And from day one, my counselor helped me to develop my network further and actually shared people from her personal network with me, and she continues to be an important part of my personal network, and I hope that I've become a part of hers. There have been a wide variety of networking events that I've had access to from being a part of Wright. Some of them took place with my fellow candidates, which were great. Some of them were with potential employers, which were also great. And there were different locations, some of them more social, some of them a little bit more business oriented. There were also a couple of really strong community business events that Wright had access to, that as a candidate and then as an alumnus I've had access to as well. And those have been great just in terms of helping me to continue to expand my network, to get my brand out there, and ultimately do my best to kind of pay it forward and add some value back to the community. In addition to my own personal coach that I worked with most closely here, I'm on 2 or 3 other people's email list here, and we do correspond from time to time. I am always open as someone who would be more than happy to talk to any candidate coming through if I might add some value to them. And similarly, I actually come back to my counselors here from time to time when I'm working with clients that I know are trying to place people but don't necessarily want to work through a recruiter or go through that kind of a structured process. I know the talent level that's coming through here because I experienced that myself. And every once in a while I'm in a position to say, hey, you know what, let me check and see if anybody that I know knows somebody that might be a fit. It's something that allows me to add value to my clients and my community by my association with Wright. I'd say first and foremost, the environment here was very warm and welcoming and supportive. And I think that's probably what I needed initially, which was just someone to tell me, it's going to be okay. We've kind of done this before. You're going to be fine. And because everybody else in my life that could tell me that were not necessarily in a position to really know. The people here that told me it was going to be okay actually had some experience and knew that it was going to be okay. So that was probably the first thing that helped me tremendously from day one. I'd say as an individual, you have a choice. You have this opportunity in front of you to tap into a pretty incredible resource. And when you think about it, you've never had that opportunity before, likely, in your career. Nowhere else in my career did anybody ever teach me how to negotiate my salary. That's something that you only get here. So I would say to any candidate just getting started with Wright Management or maybe about to get started with Wright Management, take advantage of every opportunity that you see in front of you because you don't get those opportunities very often. Take advantage of every webinar that you can. Take advantage of every in-person workshop that you can. Learn how to network. Leverage the network here among your fellow candidates. Leverage the network of your counselor and the other resources here at Wright Management. It's a great start to the rest of your career.